The financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
All right, hey everyone, this is Kevin Wilson, your host for today for Radio Free New York. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are live on WYSL from 12 to 1 p.m. and we are joined by Sean, Agent of Chaos, who is busy typing away. I can hear you in the background, buddy.
Click, 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 click.
I know. I was doing that all yesterday too. I kept just typing in the background and forgetting to mute my mic, and I was like, "Oh, right, this is going over the radio." Sorry, guys. But thanks, everyone, for joining us here today on Radio Free New York. We have a couple of interesting topics today, maybe some dark topics, but I mostly want to talk about like the media reporting and maybe a couple of partisanship issues that are popping up around this that I found really strange. So yeah, I want to talk about some of that stuff. But again, thanks for joining us here today on WYSL, where we'll be live this Friday. If you're listening to this on a rebroadcast, we're live noon to 1. If you want to call in, participate in the conversation, give us a call at 585-346-3000. And of course, you can say hi to us on the live stream as well on Facebook or on YouTube. So, Sean Phelan, Agent Chaos, how you doing, man? We haven't talked in a while. It's been at least a week now.
I've been hanging in there, man. It's, it's funny. I've been kind of doing a little Schadenfreude, which is, the pleasure taking from other people's misery, and just listening to how broke people are and how people are like, oh, I'm so bored and I'm in the house for so long. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to my world, people. Welcome to my world.
It's your everyday experience, but you've already adapted, so this is normal for you.
It's like so it's like we have this, like there's old poor and new poor. Okay, I'm part of the old poor. Okay, so I know how this is done. I know how to get around things. Okay, this group of new poor people, they're floundering about. It's really funny watching them.
Wow, yeah, I wouldn't put it that way for sure, because I don't take pleasure in other people's suffering. But yeah,
I'm from Long Island, so I do, man.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one way to do it. All right, gosh. Oh, Sean, you always keep things so colorful on this show. What a fun co-host you are.
Why should I hold back?
Yep. Of course, if you're looking for any tips from Sean, he probably will not share them with you. But you.
No, you'd be surprised. I'm a pretty generous guy in that respect.
Oh, good.
When it comes to knowledge,
That's good. So you can follow Sean for tips on how to navigate your new life that we're facing now. Sean is an expert.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you gotta follow on Twitter. Where can people follow you, Sean?
Oh, I don't know. No,
you don't know.
Twitter, it's Sean C, as in the letter C, Phelan, which is spelled completely differently than you think it is.
Oh, good.
But yeah, that's on Twitter. So, but yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm around. You can find me.
Oh, perfect. Well, there we go.
Send your complaints and comments too.
Yeah, great, cool. Thanks, bud. So anyhow, I did have an actual topic for today, and I want to talk about what's going on with kind of reporting around some of the deaths around coronavirus. And I want to dive into the whole, I want to dive into whether or not the death tolls are being reported incorrectly yet, because I know that's a story that's going around, particularly conservative outlets. But I do want to dive into some of the other reporting around that. So some of the reporting around coronavirus, I think, has been a bit clickbaity, for lack of a better word. It's written in a way that's intentionally terrifying, and in a way that I think misleads people who are reading the story about the nature of what's going on. And, I'll start with a BBC headline that I came across today, and it says, coronavirus, New York ramps up mass burials amid outbreak, right? And the way most of these stories read, and they end up being pretty short, is that in New York, there are so many deaths going on that now New York is resorting to mass graves in order to deal with the massive numbers of people dying. And to be clear, there are a lot of people dying. I'm not trying to take away from that. But it's important to understand why this stuff is happening, and to try to kind of put that appropriately in terms of what the scale of this disaster is, right? And I think that there's it kind of going back to that noble lie concept that we had before, is that there's this inclination to over-report and over-scare in order to get people to be more likely to respect social distancing recommendations and rules, and to get people to take greater precautions, because if this looks like a greater disaster, they'll be more cautious. But it also drives up fear, anxiety. It makes it less likely that we'll be able to get to any semblance of normal sooner. And so in this the mass burial that they're talking about in New York City, what's actually happening is this is something that's been going on for well over 100 years. There's this thing called Hart Island out in the Bronx, and that's where they bury everyone who doesn't get claimed in the morgue, right? So this is something that's been going on for a while, where Hart Island just kind of used to bury anyone, and they use prison labor to bury anyone who isn't claimed immediately by the morgue, right? So this isn't anything new. This isn't like New York City is trying to build new mass graves to deal with this situation. Sean, you have any thoughts on that?
I did see them digging some mass grave site that they were showing on the news earlier today, but I thought that was just due to overflow, and I didn't think that they were kind of gonna use that as a as like a facility. I mean, I thought it was just one of those things okay, this is just in case kind of thing. But
no, so they are.
I was going to say, I had a high school friend's mother in Manhattan. She recently passed away, and they attributed it to the COVID virus, which they seem to be attributing a lot of deaths from anybody dying to it, So I think the numbers are a little skewed, but I don't know. It's just weird things are going on.
Well, as I said, I think that's a different topic, and I don't think it's being skewed, and maybe we could talk about that in another segment. But just as it regards to this, it's where you have homelessness, you have isolation where you don't have family members. The amount of time that goes from an unidentified, unclaimed body being in a morgue and then it being buried on Hart Island has gotten a bit shorter. So they are burying more people. It's about 5 more per day, which is awful. And again, I don't want to take that away, but it's, this is something that has kind of been going on a while. This isn't really a new thing. This is where a grave has been for over 100 and some odd years. I think there's a stat that I'm looking at right here. It says since 1980, 68,955 people have been buried in mass graves in Hart Island. That's just where it goes. And again, my point in this is to, when you see headlines like this, I see 2 reactions. One is to say that this is fake news, this is the media scaring you, and the other is, oh my goodness, this is such a calamity and bodies are piling up, and some of that is happening, but the actual truth, you need to take some time, read what's going on in these articles, read what's going on in the headlines. They're intentionally written to get you to click on them and to get to rile you up a bit, because that's, what we're attracted to, right? We're attracted to scary headlines and devastating news. It's a survival instinct that's built into mankind. But my ask to all of you is to slow down, think about what's happening, and then take things one step at a time. All right, we'll be back in just a few minutes here on Radio Free New York. Thanks again for joining us.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Sean Phelan, Agent of Chaos. Again, thanks everyone for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We're getting a few comments coming in. We got one from Maria, who says, my friends in the National Guard is in New York City. It's worse than they are reporting. Wow, yeah. I've heard that. And I got another comment from Angela who's saying that heard China played down the numbers earlier this year, which,
they always do.
You got to be skeptical of what China's doing. They're saying, oh, yeah, the infection stopped at 82,000 people and, no one else got infected and it's fine. Like, the reporting coming out of China is ridiculous. And every time I see a mainstream news outlet say, like, look, China was able to shut things down and then they totally stopped the infection. I'm like, how can you believe that with any credibility? Right. The Chinese government lies so frequently, like, almost anything that comes out of there, you have to just assume is bunk. I don't get why anyone would take that at face value.
Pretty much, especially if it's bad news. I lived over in Asia for 2 years, and the Asian philosophy, the Asian culturalisms, socialisms, is that if it's bad news, you don't ever report it to your bosses. And I don't know why.
No, it's just, more of a culture where it's normalized to just not report that type of stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like, if one worker over in China tallies up all the deaths and it's 100,000 deaths, and he gives it to his superior, and his superior is like, oh, I can't give this to my superior. So he takes like a zero off and says, oh, yeah, there's only 10,000 deaths, and then his superior goes, oh, well, I can't tell the prime minister or, the government that there's 10,000 deaths. So we're going to take a zero off of that and make it just 1,000. And then they'll just hand it in like that. That's the way they do things over there.
It ends up decreasing sometimes. You'll see lots of evidence of the Chinese government doing that because your job can be at stake if it's you're perceived as performing poorly in these situations. So it's a very serious thing. And the one other story that I wanted to get to, because I saw this making a lot of noise on social media, is that Monroe County is opening up a temporary morgue in Chilai, because the Monroe County morgues are at a tipping point. Well, here's kind of what's going on. Again, I don't want to diminish the situation, but people have rightly pointed out, at the time when this was happening, there had only been, I think, 37 people who had died of coronavirus in Monroe County. So people are, I think, asking rightly, like, how on earth could our morgues be overflowing when that is a tragedy, but still not all that many people in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, how could our morgue capacity be overwhelmed at this point? Well, what's actually happening is that right now there's about 128 spots in the existing morgues. The medical examiner's office can hold like 50, and local hospitals can do 35, 40, plus a couple other small spots. But what's happening is that funerals aren't happening, so bodies are staying in morgues a bit longer, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing a buildup of number of people and why there's excess capacity needed. And I know this is a really dark topic, but again, I looked at this and I'm like, well, how on earth could our system capacity be overwhelmed so easily? How are we not prepared to handle 37 additional deaths in our county? But, as you read the stories, you start to figure out, why is this happening? Well, in part because there are some additional deaths, but also because bodies are staying in morgues longer, because funeral homes aren't able to do their services as quickly because of social distancing rules and mores, and funerals aren't happening as quickly. So it's just, things are slowing down, and that's why there needs to be excess capacity. But my message to everyone today is that, again, don't react to the headlines. Try to figure out what's actually going on. Don't give in to the fear. Try to arm yourself with facts as much as possible, because when you give in to fear, what happens is that the government takes advantage of that fear and they're able to take away more of your liberty.
Always. I mean, I can't believe how many politicians I'm seeing out there trying to politicize this and trying to take advantage. Somebody said, I overheard somebody saying that something about, and this goes back like years and years and years, something about don't let a tragedy ever pass by an opportunity to.
Oh yeah, you're thinking never let a tragedy go to waste.
Yeah,
and that was who was Rahm Emanuel was the guy who said that. And he was for a time Barack Obama's chief strategist, and I think chief of staff for a little bit. And he kind of said that in regards to the 2008 financial crisis, and what he was pointing out, and he ain't wrong. I'm not saying he's doing the right moral thing, but he ain't wrong. Is that in times of crisis, politics shifts, and people are far more willing to accept radical new government programs that they wouldn't accept under normal circumstances. And in particular with the 2008 financial crisis, they were hoping to reform the entire financial system and kind of the welfare system as well to be able to meet progressive goals that they don't think they'd be able to do during good times. And we're seeing some of that today too, is that, and I mean, everybody is far more willing to accept greater government authority to be able to deal with a pandemic than they would in times when government doesn't have an excuse to do that. And I think Andrew has hit this quite frequently, and we've hit this quite frequently, is that we can't let this become the norm. We can't let the government just start to dictate how we're able to move, when we're able to move, what businesses are essential, what businesses aren't essential, and then the subsidization of those businesses too, and how they start to become more and more dependent on the government. We further erode the free market system and further erode our resiliency to be able to tackle conflicts and tackle problems in the future. Again, the government doesn't miss any opportunities to seize more power and to seize more of our liberty, and we need to make sure that we're vigilant of where they're doing this, where maybe it's necessary or good advice or stuff that people are doing voluntarily, and when it's just a naked power grab. And I'll read off a couple more comments now, and then Sean, I'll let you jump in more because I've been talking way too much here, man.
No, it's fine. It's just,
Sean's just messing around playing his video games right now. And is that what you do? I knew it, Sean. You're just playing your tanks game. And
actually, I'm worried. I'm seeing Kevin Wormhold made a comment here, and I know he's from Long Island, and I know things are getting crazy down there.
Yeah. So we'll read Kevin's comment, and then we have another one from Kirk, too. So Kevin says, New York City is over-reporting deaths related to COVID to increase funding from the federal government. And that's certainly something I've seen quite a bit of, too. I'm not necessarily agreeing with you, Kevin. Sorry, I don't quite see that yet, but I understand that line of thinking. Is that when a disaster strikes, if the disaster's worse, you get more assistance from the federal government to be able to deal with that disaster. Like, that's just generally how it works. So it's not wrong to say that there is financial incentive to exaggerate the extent of a disaster to be able to do that. What I would say from what I've read about this so far is that, yes, there are underlying illnesses related to coronavirus. There are comorbidities related to coronavirus. And so people have pointed out, like, oh, well, this person had X, Y, and Z other conditions, and then he also had coronavirus. Why is their cause of death reported as coronavirus? Oh, yeah, and we got a great comment from Francis as well, so I'm going to read that first. Yeah. But again, I lost my train of thought on that totally. But anyway, yeah, so I think it's not inaccurate to say that people have died of coronavirus when they have also had other conditions. We've always known that. So it may be, in fact, that we're underreporting coronavirus tests because not all of the people who have died are being tested necessarily either. So it's kind of hard to tell. We may be overreporting, we may be underreporting, and things are kind of confusing right now. And so we got to kind of keep looking at that. And so I'll read Kirk's comment, then Francis's comment. So Kirk said, I have a friend working with New York State Health. She's in 14-day quarantine starting today. The full body bags are real. He says, yes, the counts are exaggerated, and politicians are definitely taking advantage. Her advice: protect yourself, stay home, don't expose yourself. Don't listen to hype, but listen to your common sense. You don't know who's infected. It is contagious, as they say they are. And Kirk, I think that's a great point. And you're kind of striking that middle ground. You still need to protect yourself. Like, really, this is a serious thing. This is really killing people. Like, protect yourself, protect your family, but be wary of a government that is trying to seize permanent power. But again, it's not nothing. And then Francis says, I'm a funeral director and the morgues are not at capacity. The county brought the trucks in for a worst case scenario. And yeah, that's right. I did misstate that the morgues are not quite full yet, but they could be, and that's why they're bringing them in. So thank you for that correction, Francis. I really appreciate your comment. We'll be back in just a few minutes with more Radio Free New York. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Talk to you soon.
twice the power.
WYSL.
More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We're looking at most cloudy skies, temps in the low 30s out there. Still a bit of a breeze. On Saturday, a much nicer day. Clouds will break for a little bit of sunshine, temps in the 40s. Much warmer as we look ahead towards Sunday. We should see temperatures getting closer to 60 degrees on Easter. Mainly dry, but there could be some rain by Sunday night. I'm Rich Cadelia on WYSL.
If you have a job, your job is essential. If you're in business producing a useful product or service, your business is essential. Essential jobs and businesses, they're all that way. Let that sink in.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hey, grab a pen. I'm going to give you a phone number I hope you never have to call. The number for attorney Christopher Johnson. Chris handles car and motorcycle accident cases and DWIs and serious personal injury cases. So if there's an accident or anything else, this is the number you want in your glove compartment. You ready? Here's the number, 585-415-3803. 415-3803. You'll want that handy because suddenly, at that time, you'll be getting lots of, quote, advice. With this number in hand, you know you'll have experience on your side and integrity and individual attention to your case. So forget the singing jingle phone numbers, the actors playing ex-clients bragging about their $1 million settlements. Just remember the number for Christopher Johnson, attorney. We hope you never have to call. 585-415-3803. 415-3803. Stay safe, be healthy, drive sober. Christopher Johnson, attorney, personal injury, car or motorcycle accidents, DWI defense. Good to know.
Hi, this is Gary Mervis. During these difficult times, we know that many people are hurting financially with the loss of jobs and tighter finances. However, if you find yourself in a position to donate, your financial help is needed now more than ever for children and families Camp Good Day serves, as the circumstances have caused us to postpone our fundraisers and events. During this current COVID-19 pandemic, people are unfortunately still being told that they have been diagnosed with cancer. If you are able to help by donating either through our website, campgooddays.org, or by mailing in a check, it would be much appreciated. If we all do our part to get through COVID-19, I know we will come out stronger than ever.
The Livingston County Department of Health needs volunteers for the Medical Reserve Corps. If you're an active or retired licensed healthcare professional or just a community member who wants to help, we need you. Put your skill and energy to work improving emergency response. Free education and training provided. Work with peers in critical settings. Make a difference in your community. Google the Livingston County Department of Health and email us, including MRC in the subject line, or call 243-7524.
Cobblestone Capital Advisors, LLC offers comprehensive financial management services throughout Western New York and nationwide. Cobblestone's an active supporter of numerous local organizations, including Mary Cariola Children's Center, Wilmot Cancer Center, Holy Childhood, Rochester Child First Network, and Golisano Children's Hospital. Since 1986, Cobblestone Capital Advisors has been building strong foundations for both its clients and its community. Cobblestone Capital Advisors, focused on one goal, yours.
Hey, COVID hermits, be a hero. Bring home a treat tonight. Make a quick stop at Exit 11 off 390. Pick up a family favorite pie from Colby's Bakery Ice Cream and Barbecue. Just east of Route 15, Colby's Bakery, Ice Cream, and Barbecue.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, and joined by Sean Phelan, Agent of Chaos. And thanks to everyone for listening here on WYSL, on our rebroadcast on WACK or WENY, and our rebroadcast this weekend on WYSL too. I think this show's playing on the weekend. And then thanks everyone for listening online too. We're getting some wonderful comments in again today. I was reading a few of those before the break, and then we did get another one in from Greg. Said what you're saying is, I believe, absolutely correct. Was the underlying cause of these deaths, and is it from COVID-19? And you know, it's a valid question worth asking, and we need to kind of explore that and do so in good faith. I think there's sometimes a tendency to kind of read into what you want to believe with these things, and I try to look at these things as neutrally as possible. Maybe not always getting it right because I don't I don't know this stuff, right? I'm just trying to learn from the experts the best I can and kind of generate discussions about what these conclusions and what these policies mean for our liberty, our ability to make a living, our ability to thrive in this brave new world that we have here. And I think it's important to look at, like when we look at previous epidemics, like the AIDS epidemic, right? Like a lot of times, like the people who would die from AIDS would have their cause of death listed as something like pneumonia, right? But the fact is that pneumonia was caused by a compromised immune system that led to another disease that caused them to get that cause of death. So,
right.
So that's something that we need to consider in that situation, is that there are comorbidities. We know that's going to happen. There are underlying conditions that can cause people to be in a worse position when they get this disease, and so maybe that one thing is killing them, but coronavirus is certainly exacerbating that and making that more likely. And I'm trying to process this again in as good a faith as possible to again make sure that like our governments are making better decisions and we're making better decisions for ourselves, right? And I've said that over and over again. We talked about it, I think last week and the week before too, is that we need to have good information that we can act on as individuals to be able to protect ourselves and our families. And that's what's most important.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, Sean, we had something else that we wanted to talk about. You want to kick this off, or you want me to do it?
Go for it.
Okay, good. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about was I've seen these posts from police departments and from individuals too, encouraging people to report on their friends. Right, encouraging people if someone's violating social distancing rules, like say having a party at their house or a business that's operating, reporting on their friends and calling the police. And that's action from the police. If you get caught doing that, can be I think $1,000 fine. In some places it's higher too. I think it's a $2,000 fine. It creates very serious consequences for whoever's the target of that. So hosting a party can be quite an expensive affair if your neighbors blow you in. But Sean, is that ethical? Should we be snitching on our neighbors?
No, I don't think things have gotten that bad where you need to do that. I wasn't even thinking about this until I came across a retweet that somebody put up from Governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt. He had one of his constituents ask, how do I report a business that is non-essential and isn't following orders? And this guy, Chad, decided to try the Gestapo app. And of course, she said, thank you.
Right, yeah. No, I've seen some responses like that, or like call 1-800-AMA-NAZI or whatever. I've seen stuff
exactly.
like that. And kind of my inclination, my first inclination is that too. And it's just like, no, don't narc on your neighbors. Don't why would you bring potential state violence into them, into their lives and hurt them in that way, even if they are acting irresponsibly?
Now, I could see people next door, they're having a barbecue and there's a dozen people or more over there and kids running around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And,
and they're not sharing their food with you and you don't like them. And then.
Yeah, well, no, it's that. It's just, I definitely would speak to my neighbor and say, hey, man, aren't you concerned about getting your friends and family sick, and see what his answer is, and If he gives me an acceptable answer, then okay, live your life, man, do your thing, live with the consequences of your choices, but
Yeah.
don't go whining when it happens,
Right. So I'll make the devil's advocate position on this, and knowing that this isn't quite my position, but that violating social distancing rules violates the non-aggression principle. It violates, because what you're doing by doing that is exposing people to potential sickness, right? Something that can hurt someone or potentially kill someone. And even if you're going to a party, there's someone there who's infected, you get sick because of that, and then you go out and visit other people or just go to the store or something, you're contributing to greater misery, sickness, and possible death in your community. And so therefore it is justified to call the police on your neighbor in this situation. And again, I'd love to hear what other people think of this. Is it ethical to do this in this situation? I've already stated my position, but there's another argument to be made that, not only should you not be doing this from your own moral perspective, but there's a case for government intervention in this.
So you're basically summarizing this by stating, if you like your neighbor, let him be. If you don't like your neighbor, then call the cops.
No.
Okay.
No, not what I'm saying. I'm saying, is your neighbor committing an act that is so harmful that it justifies police intervention by having a barbecue?
Right. This has always been that gray area I've always found about the libertarian perspective is when do you draw that line? Where is that line drawn where other people can be harmed? Right. Now, I understand harming other people is right out. But where do you get that preventative part? Where does paranoia meet practicality? And that's been the line that I think is the gray line that people don't know where it exactly is. And I think for each individual person and your own moral and ethical beliefs, that line is definitely not going to be in the same place as others.
That's fair. And again, I think it comes down to, when do you justify state intervention? I think it's a totally different thing for you to you see your neighbors having a barbecue or whatever, and or stores open that you don't think should be open, and to say hey man, this is irresponsible, you shouldn't be doing this, and then try to convince them that they should act differently somehow, right?
Right.
I think that's much different from I'm gonna go call the police on you, and they can use force to either issue you fines or arrest you. In some states you're able to arrest people for violating social distancing rules. Governor Cuomo said that the NYPD needs to step up their enforcement of social distancing rules in New York City, and what that's going to lead to is more altercations with the police. That's going to get people hurt too, and also kind of violate social distancing in that process too.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. I mean, where do you draw that line? I mean, is the neighbor's barbecuing next door, with his AR-15 slung over his back, and the kids are running around using plastic straws.
Oh no!
I mean, do you call the cops? I mean, where do you draw that line?
Call the FBI, Sean.
Child Protective Services.
Oh goodness! I mean, there are people who, unironically, who would say that type of stuff. And again, to me, it's no, we shouldn't be doing that. I'd rather. And I get where it's not justified to use state violence in this. It's not justified. It's an overreaction to have actual enforcement actions go on for social distancing. I think it's something you should do. I'm not going out and meeting with friends. I'm not going out and meeting in person. I'm trying to limit my exposure and my potential exposure to other people as much as possible. And I'm going to tell other people, you should probably do the same thing too. That's a good thing. But man, we really shouldn't be calling the police on people in this situation. And I hope the police use a lot of discretion in doing that too. I've heard from or at least seen news stories of some police departments who are trying to use that discretion. If you see a bunch of kids playing a game of basketball or something, you're not going to arrest them and find their parents. You're just going to tell them, hey, you should really go home. They don't want to. And I hope most people use common sense in that situation, and that's what police officers do, because they don't want to put themselves at greater exposure either. But man, I don't want to. I don't like the type of society where you're going to be reporting your neighbor for that type of stuff. I think it's a really dangerous cultural step to take, where we start to normalize that type of behavior too, because does it expand into other types of behavior where you're doing something that's politically unsound, or not unsound, politically out of the norm. Is it going to become normal to call the police on your neighbor for a bunch of stuff? We are getting some comments, and Eugene says it sounds like communism. Kirk is saying it's not ethical to turn your neighbor in and call the authorities on them. It's dumb, but there's other stuff going on.
I just had an idea about something we'll talk about when we come back from the break. And,
and we'll talk about that, and we'll do Fake News Friday. We'll be back on Radio Free New York in just a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
The Livingston County Department of Health needs volunteers for the Medical Reserve Corps. If you're an active or retired licensed healthcare professional or just a community member who wants to help, we need you. Put your skill and energy to work improving emergency response. Free education and training provided. Work with peers in critical settings. Make a difference in your community. Google the Livingston County Department of Health and email us, including MRC in the subject line, or call 243-7524.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, it's Fake News Friday, and we do have some great fake news stories coming up for you. But Sean, you had an idea.
See, the way my mind works is being, libertarian and capitalism, go hand in hand like that, and free market economy. I always look at changes and things that happen in my life as opportunities. Is this how can I turn this as an opportunity to make things better for myself? How is this an opportunity that I might actually be able to make money off of things?
You greedy capitalist.
Yeah, I know. I just can't help it, though. If I was gainfully employed, I wouldn't be thinking about these things, but I am. So here's the situation. I'm thinking, why can't you have if a person's got COVID, and another person's got COVID, why don't you have a COVID dating site where, you both can hook up and you both got the COVID going, in common?
Well, so while they have it, or are you thinking after they had it, hey, I've already had it, I'm immune, no big deal?
No, I'm sure there's some people that wouldn't mind some snuggling, while they got it,
Oh boy. So I know you got you had the bunker idea a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now you got this one, man. You need to partner with an app developer to be able to figure this stuff out.
Oh, I know, man. I got $1 million ideas constantly. I just can't do anything with them.
Yeah, all right. Great idea. Yeah, someone needs to call up Sean and figure this out. And speaking of calls, we do have a caller. We have Eric from Allegheny County. Eric, what's on your mind?
Hey, you guys, good show. And I'll try to make it quick because I know you got stuff going on. But here's to back up to what you were talking about, letting a crisis go to waste. It was Winston Churchill that first said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And and I've got a couple other quick ones for you. But that was in regards to capitalizing on the mayhem from World War II to reestablish the League of Nations under what is now the United Nations. Now, listen to this. Saul Alinsky is very famous on page 89 for his communist rules for radicals, said, in the arena of action, a threat or a crisis becomes almost a precondition to communication. And in 1976, M.F. Weiner, W-E-I-N-E-R, wrote an article for the Journal of Medical Economics. And he said in that article, quote, don't waste a crisis, your patient's or your own. And he discussed in that medical journal that a medical crisis can be used to improve aspects of personality, mental health, and lifestyle. And in closing, remember what Julius Cuomo said on April 1st on his press conference. I heard it myself and wrote it right down. He said the following. He said, quote, sometimes you need the emergency to force change. Now think about those words. A need, not a want. And an emergency is a good thing to him so he can force change on all of us. And we should never lose track that he has not changed his colors. He said if you're a conservative, a gun owner, anti-abortion, get out of New York. Now, if anybody thinks that Cuomo has changed his stripes due to the coronavirus emergency, I think they're not thinking rationally.
Well, and you're not paying attention to the budget because we certainly saw a bunch of messes in that too. Eric, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate you calling in and giving that point. That's a lot of great points going on there. And yeah, we need to maintain that skepticism of government. Again, the government is not always looking out for your best interest. The government is made up of people just like the rest of us. There are good people, there are bad people, there are competent people, there are incompetent people. Government is made of people. That's the big secret. And some are not looking out for you. Some may be trying to do the right thing, but they ain't going to do the right thing because they don't know what to do in this situation. And so we need to be incredibly skeptical whenever the government tries to seize power from us, particularly in the midst of an emergency like this, is that we need to be skeptical that they're doing the right thing, and that even if it is the right thing for the government to be doing, that this isn't a permanent usurpation of our liberty in this situation. And again, thanks so much for calling in, Eric, and thanks for all the comments we're still getting in from Kirk, Daniel, all you guys. Thanks so much for participating in the show today. We do still have a few more minutes left, though, and I want to get to a couple of fake news items because some good, interesting ones that are coming up this week. Sean, you want me to start first?
Go for it.
Okay. Here's the headline. Tiger in New York City Zoo tests positive for COVID-19.
I'm going to say fake news because, I mean, if we don't have enough tests for the humans, what are we doing testing tigers?
You know, that's what everyone else said, too. You are in good company there. But it is real news. A tiger at the Bronx Zoo in New York City did test positive for the coronavirus. And I will read what the Bronx Zoo said because what they said is, okay, so from Dr. Paul Calais, Bronx chief veterinarian, the COVID-19 testing that was performed on our Malayan tiger, Nadia, was performed in a veterinary school laboratory and is not the same test that is used for people. You cannot send human samples to the veterinary laboratory, and you cannot send animal tests to the human laboratories, so there is no competition for testing between these very different situations.
Boy, I'd like to see the look on their faces if you sent like an animal sample to a human place.
Yeah,
they'd be like, what?
I don't know enough about how those work, but apparently it is real news. But it wasn't like a test that was meant that could have been used for people was used for the tiger. Apparently, I don't know how this works. If there's anyone who's smarter than me who understands better and thinks that's wrong, but taking them at their word, it's a totally different thing.
Well, what about oh God, what's the TV star's name? He's got tiger blood running through him.
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen, yes.
Is that the one? Yeah. That's a great question. Please, someone tweet that at him, because maybe he's eligible for those special coronavirus tests.
Right? Never know.
Sean, you got some fake news for us?
Of course. Florida man claims to have found a cure for COVID-19. He also claims that the main ingredient is very difficult to find because the main ingredient is canned Budweiser beer from the 1980s.
Well, that sounds like something that's real news. Like, I believe that someone said that.
I would believe if they said it too from Florida, but I made that one up.
You just made that one up.
I made that one up.
So if only it were Jenny produced in the last couple years, then I would be fine.
Yeah.
But alas,
canned Budweiser beer from the 80s? I mean, that's pre-aluminum can, people.
Didn't they have them, but they just didn't have like the liners and whatnot yet?
Yeah, that was for a while, but there was the steel cans for the longest time, and I'm old enough to remember the seam. Oh, if the seam lined up with the mouthpiece, forget it. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Barb says, testing tiger is probably useful for research. That's a good point. Well, apparently, like, some animals can get coronavirus, but they're not quite... I guess it doesn't seem like they can spread it to you, but you can spread it to the animals, so it's something to keep in mind.
I like Kirk's comment, though, about the Budweiser beer will cure it all right.
They'll cure it all right. Yeah, maybe. All right, so I got another one.
Oh, go ahead. I got one, too.
All right. San Francisco bans reusable bags in coronavirus fight. Sean, is that real news or fake news? Did the progressive capital really ban reusable bags?
Yes, they probably would.
Yeah, that's real news. San Francisco really did that because, of course, with government, everything's either banned or mandatory.
So what are you going to do? Like hire a professional juggler to like get your groceries home? I mean...
Yeah, you're able to use some plastic bags now and paper bags as well. So they're starting to bring some of those back. Otherwise, yeah, you better get used to juggling and just carrying everything at once. That's the way to do it.
All right, last fake news.
All right, real quick.
A woman in Ohio was coming out of church and she was being interviewed. And she says she believes she is immune to the COVID-19 virus because she is a Christian covered in Jesus's blood.
Fake news.
That is real news, believe it or not. There was a church gathering that was going on, and the cameras came out in front, and they were interviewing people as they were driving out, and they stopped this one woman, and this woman actually said, quote, "She is not concerned. I am a Christian covered in Jesus' blood."
Well, all right. Well, interesting. All right, so thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Fake News Friday here at Radio Free New York. Andrew will be back on Monday with more Radio Free New York. We will talk to you then.
Villa of Hope is here to help. Our Monroe County Department of Public Health is working diligently to reduce the chances of spreading the COVID-19 virus, and it's important we all follow those recommendations. That does not mean you cannot reach out for help. The Villa is here. We have people ready to take your call and get you the help you need, whether you need general counseling, family support,